It's time now for the Retirement Playbook with Rick and Granger Hughes from the Hughes Retirement Group.
Welcome to the Retirement Playbook. I'm your host, James Howard, alongside Rick and Granger Hughes. Over the next half hour, we're going to be discussing planning for a successful retirement. And while so many people in this country are missing the mark, I want you to pay attention. You're going to learn something, I promise. Here's what's in store for the next 28 and a half minutes. It's about building your retirement plan, a written retirement plan. Yes, for you. We'll discuss income. Of course, we're going to be talking about taxes and growth strategies. Plus how market volatility can change your outlook. But first, let's meet these two wonderful gentlemen, Rick and Granger Hughes, father and son duo. They're part of a fantastic team, the Hughes Retirement Group, a Chattanooga area firm that focuses on preparing people just like you for retirement. Rick and Granger are also popular radio show hosts. Let's get started. I love these guys.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
And yeah, we have so much to get to. Let's talk about running out of money. You know, year after year, these studies show that the number one fear of people preparing for retirement is running out of money. This is what this conversation is all about. This Morningstar study. Talk to us about this, Granger.
Well, you know, the study kind of talks about, we look at retirement plans. Most people out there are pretty familiar with what a 401k is. Mm-hmm. So the study kind of cites that 54% of people don't even have access to a 401k. So that's about 69 million people. Then we kind of fast forward to Social Security age, which the earliest you can file right now is age 62. And so what they cite is if you take Social Security at 62, there's a 54% chance that you will run out of money or face a financial shortfall in retirement. So creating income for a long retirement, it could be 20, 30, 40 years, we don't know, depends on when you're going to retire. Mm-hmm. Is a crucial component. So we've gone from pensions to now 401ks, which if we look at the stats, people are not contributing to at the rates that they need to be, or they don't even have access to one. So now we're faced with this conundrum of how do we create income? How do we replace that paycheck in retirement? And that's going to be the big concern going forward.
Yeah, it's all about creating our own pension in retirement, right?
Absolutely. I mean, and you can do that. There's different strategies out there, James. As Granger just said, pensions kind of have gone by the wayside. So obviously we're able to help people that we work with as far as developing that pension. And when you think of pension, you're thinking of getting that check until the day you die. Yeah. So again, that's something that people need to be looking at seriously.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about Social Security. Once we hit retirement, the paycheck stops, as you mentioned, but the bills don't.
Right.
So how important is it to replace that paycheck in retirement when it comes to Social Security?
It's huge because, again, you're used to getting a paycheck every week, bi-weekly, however you get paid. And then one day it stops. And you've hopefully accumulated and built a portfolio, whether it comes from a 401k or whatever it may be coming from. Because, again, you want to be able to create yourself your own check, just like we were talking about potentially creating that pension. You're going to probably rely on Social Security. You may be fortunate and already have a pension. If not, most people want fixed income because if you're relying strictly on the market, what happens if we have a 2008 and your portfolio loses 30, 50%? So again, we come back to that fear of outliving your money.
And if you look, most people, the Social Security is going to be a pretty crucial component to their retirement. It may not be their entire income plan, but it's usually a pretty good portion of it. So planning on when do we take Social Security? And one of the things that Dad and I talk about when we're meeting with clients is we kind of changed the way that we viewed this over the years, and we'll look at different buckets of money. We'll look at 401ks, traditional IRAs, Roths, brokerage accounts, and then we'll have them bring their Social Security statement in. And we'll say, okay, here's how much you've put in to the Social Security system. Here's how much your employer has put into the Social Security system. So in theory, if that were a lump sum payment, which bucket would you want to touch first? And that's where we kind of try to illustrate that money right there. If you pass away, we look at legacy. If you pass away, how much of that Social Security check do your kids get? None. Simply put, they don't, unless there's some disabilities or things of that nature. So from a legacy standpoint, that money is not guaranteed. Then we look and we say, okay, what about Social Security taxation? Look at the national debt. Look at the Social Security insolvency. So Social Security right now, in terms of when do I take it, there's a lot of different ways that we can look at it in today's day and age than maybe we did 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago that we need to assess, because when we're looking at trying to stretch this out, hopefully we have a long, long retirement.
Yeah.
But as we've said so many times, it's very, very expensive to live.
Yeah.
It's not getting any cheaper. So we want to make sure we're maximizing those dollars best we can.
And we know also, James, the CBO tells us 2033, 34, somewhere in that area. If Congress does not act, there's a possibility that your Social Security could be reduced 20 to 25%. Now, we'll talk with people and they'll go, oh, they'll never do that. They'll come up with a plan. And we always say, yeah, we hope they do, but I always believe this, and you probably do also. Throw something against the wall and see what sticks. And a lot of times that's the way Congress works. They don't spend a lot of time on it. I'm sure you know that.
Oh, yeah.
And if we think about that, so 25%, the thing I usually try to explain to people is a reasonable-minded person, I would say. If we're looking and saying, okay, are we going to give somebody who's, let's say, making $1,000 a month a 25% cut? I would say probably not a high percentage that they would do that. So if you're in that situation where maybe you've got $40,000, $50,000 a year pension or 401k or whatever it is that you're distributing from, is there a likelihood you could be impacted? And if there is, like I said, there's things that we actually do at our office called a Social Security risk score that tells you your likelihood that you would be impacted should legislation change in that direction.
Yeah, looking at the future, you kind of hit it for me, because as I get closer to retirement, I'm thinking, is that Social Security going to be there for me?
Right, yeah.
And a lot of us are. You're saying that, right? For
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about annuities. There's been studies done with people with annuities. They're happier. You guys have been in this business for a long time. Is that the case?
Here's what I would say about annuities. And usually when we conduct educational classes, I'll ask people, what's your thoughts of annuities? And you'll get some people say, I've heard they're terrible, I wouldn't do it. And others say they like it. And then when we go back to the Social Security a moment, I'll say, what do you think Social Security is? It's an annuity. It's paying you a check until the day you die. Annuities, again, have obviously changed a lot. There's some good ones out there. We always say not all of them are created equal. If you're trying to build a pension, as we just said, or long-term care strategies, it's something to take a serious look at. They're not for everyone. But I think it's important if you're going to do something like that you're going with a quality company that's A-rated and that sort of thing.
And there's so many different types of annuities. So, you don't necessarily have to get an annuity that is just income generation. There's annuities out there for principal protection and some moderate growth. But we always try to be very realistic. We're big on education.
Yeah.
So we're not an annuity salesman. We're financial advisors. We're going to sit down, we're going to present the options. And if there is a concern there where we feel like, hey, there is an income gap, and I don't know how I'm going to fulfill, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 gap, what can I do? Can I take a portion of my money and guarantee myself some income so that I know that every single month, no matter what happens, as he mentioned, the 2008s, the 2020s of the world, if the markets were to go haywire, I know that my check is still going to come. So that's the kind of the security we get in Social Security. Same thing can be accomplished with a fixed index annuity.
Yeah, one size doesn't fit all.
No.
Correct.
Yeah, when it comes to somebody's
Can't be a cookie cutter.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And it's just like, it's just the same thing when if you go sit down and you can buy a steak a lot of different places, right? There's a lot of different types of steaks. There's dry aged steaks, wet aged steaks, there's fast food steaks. So there's all kinds of different steaks. They're not all the same. So that's where I would say, sitting down with somebody when we're looking at these products, there's a lot of different ways you can structure these products to accomplish that goal.
You guys are extremely, I've known you guys for a long time. You guys are passionate about what you do. When you sit there and face to face with that client, it's good to know that somebody's in the community and they truly care about their future, because this is a scary thing.
Can be, sure.
We've got a lot of options out there. Some people are going into this with very little money. Some people they've got a lot of money, and there's a lot of choices.
And James, I think very few people, believe it or not, spend time thinking about developing a retirement plan. There's a commercial on television that shows people, running away from the retirement plan. They're planning their vacation. So in America, most people spend more time planning a vacation than they do their retirement. Now, if you think about retirement, you probably are going to be in retirement anywhere from 20 to 30 years. It's something to take very seriously. because again, the biggest fear that retirees have is outliving the money. So it's important to have a game plan.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, sitting down with someone you trust. If it's us, if it's somebody else, make sure you're finding somebody that has your best interest at heart. As we've mentioned, education. We teach a lot of retirement classes. We've got radio shows, YouTube videos. So anything that you want to kind of get that we've got there on our website, HughesRetirementGroup.com. And if you wanted to attend one of our classes, we're happy to educate there as well.
Yeah, in the green room, I was talking to a gentleman, and it's amazing the classes that you guys have, not at just one location, but it's kind of scattered out and about, it seems like.
We've had them at Tennessee Wesleyan, Bryan, Chattanooga State, Cleveland State. Actually just finished one up at Cleveland State. We're actually doing construction on our office right now in Cleveland, adding on to build a classroom so that people can actually come into the office and, we can entertain, 12 to 15 people or so. So we're excited about the future. And I would say this again, and you mentioned education. We're never going to sell you anything. It's all about education. I believe, again, I think you fly, right?
Oh, yeah. Don't get me started talking about flying, Rick.
And here's the thing. I know nothing about flying. I'm sure I could read a book and learn, but I need to get up there and actually practice, right? So, again, in this particular situation, it's important, again, to educate yourself. And I believe once you do, you're smart enough you can make a decision what's going to be best for you.
I think you would probably start in a simulator before you started in the air.
Please. I'll teach how to fly, Rick.
Okay, all right.
All right, to communicate with you guys and your team, to connect with you guys, what's the best way?
Well, I know on the screen there should have our website and a QR code if someone would like to scan that. But again, our telephone number 423-641-0999. So give us a call or hit our website. We'll be more than glad to talk with you.
Rick, all right, let's move into Medicare. How does Medicare play into a retirement plan?
Medicare is a retirement plan, okay? I think most financial firms do not include Medicare. They may farm it out to someone. Granger and I believe it's very important because most of the time when you're getting ready to turn 65, you're getting ready to go on Medicare. Now, there's a couple ways to look at it. If you're getting ready to turn 65, people will ask, when do I sign up for Medicare? If you're drawing Social Security, you don't have to sign up. They're going to send you that little red, white, and blue card that most people are familiar with. If you're not drawing Social Security, then you can either go online or contact the Social Security office, and they will make sure that you're signed up for that. So you can do that 3 months prior to your birthday month, okay? That's when you first can do it. Now there's folks out there probably saying, what if I want to continue to work and I want to stay on my group insurance? Can I do that? Am I penalized if I don't sign up for Part B? Because sometimes someone at the Social Security office may say, you got to sign up for Part B because if you don't, you're going to get penalized. It's not true. If you've had credible medical coverage, your HR person, let's say you're going to work till 70 and stay on your group coverage, that's fine. You would have your HR person. There's a couple forms that Centers of Medicare and Medicaid requires that you complete, and that, again, eliminates any penalty that you may get. Now, when you go on Medicare, what we do at our office, we're back to education again. We're going to educate you on Medicare A and B, what it means. A, you don't pay anything for if you've worked 10 years or 40 quarters. Okay. B, on the other hand, you pay $185 in 2025. That's the standard premium. Now, we have some clients paying $600 a month. You say, why? Because the government bases it on income thresholds, depending on where you fall. And the way they look at it, if you're going on Medicare in 2025, they'll look back to 2023, 2 years back, to see, again, what your AGI was, excuse me, at that time. Mm-hmm. And they will determine what that Part B. And then Granger and I will educate people on Medicare supplements or Medigaps or a Medicare Advantage plan. Sure. Okay, so there's different strategies out there.
And it is, as you mentioned earlier, it is a piece of retirement that I think a lot of people leave out. And if you think about somebody who's getting ready to embark on a retirement, if you're not filling the gaps of Medicare, that's thousands and thousands of dollars that could be spent if not properly planned for. So one of the things, and I've been actually licensed since I was 18. You know that. Yeah. I'm 35 now, so we've been doing it a long time. And
you guys not brothers?
That's what a lot of people say.
We've been doing it a long time, and we've got a staff that deals with it. And look, people are inundated with Medicare information. I mean, you've seen the commercials
from all over the country. I mean, they're getting phone calls and letters from all over the country.
And the thing is about it that you got to be careful of. If somebody's calling you over the phone or you call into one of those numbers, a lot of these plans are specific to your service area. So if somebody's calling you from Utah or California, how familiar are they with your area? And then if you have an issue, you're going to walk into their office? Probably not. So that's why we've always felt like it's a pretty important piece to retirement, and that's why we have a staff there. So if there is an issue, we've got 2 office locations, one in Cleveland, one in Chattanooga. We got 4 staff members there that can help you. So any type of question that you may have, maybe you need to shop your supplement rate, maybe you need to switch your Advantage plan, maybe you need to look at your prescription drugs. That's what our team does.
Yeah, it's amazing because all that just seems so confusing. And to me, it is so important to hire somebody locally to lead you in the right direction. And that's what you guys are.
And here's what I would say, James. We have an office in Chattanooga off Shallowford, and then in Cleveland off Peerless Crossing. So we have educational classes in Medicare. What's the cost? Absolutely nothing. Okay, we're going to educate you. Obviously, we can sit down with people one-on-one. There is no cost. We're going to educate you, and this is what I tell people in my office. I'll say, I'm going to do you right because I'm going to see you in church on Sunday or in the grocery store. Yeah. And believe it or not, a few Sundays ago, I was standing in church, praise and worship's going on, and somebody's tapping me on the shoulder wanting to ask me a question about Medicare. I said, can we finish the praise and worship?
During the church service. Oh, my goodness.
So, again, we'll provide that service at no cost. And again, just we'll educate and hopefully you can make the best choice for you.
Yeah. Is it usually sitting down with a client and you're going over the entire portfolio when it comes to everything that we've talked about on the show? Or do they come in and they just have Medicare questions?
It'll be both. Okay. For example, I'll be meeting the client here in a couple of days, and he's getting ready to turn 65 in May, but he's also getting ready to retire. So we'll handle both cases. But we dealt with someone here recently who's not going to retire till the end of the year, so we don't really have to spend time on Medicare. We'll talk about retirement planning as far as his portfolio.
All right. Give us a website one more time to connect with you guys.
HughesRetirementGroup.com. Check out all of our classes. Absolutely, there's no cost to any of them.
Or give us a call, 423-641-0999.
All right, let's talk about Roth conversions and when is a good time to do this. Rick?
Now could be a very good time, and people may ask why, because we consider taxes to be on the low end right now, okay? So if you're thinking of Roth conversion, we're not saying that everybody should do it. We're not saying you should try to convert $1 million today because you're going to be paying a lot of taxes on it. There's a systematic way to do that. Now, right now, the tax code we're presently under will expire December 31st at midnight. Now, with Donald Trump in office and a Republican House and a Republican Senate, they're going to be working on extending these tax cuts. There may be some changes or whatever, but the chances are they will be extended. So we're looking at basically 5 more years. Because you have to ask yourself, James, with us being $36 trillion in debt for the future, do we believe taxes are going to go down or up? Okay, just use some common sense right there, okay? And that debt clock is continuing to do this, okay? So if somebody's interested in a Roth conversion, obviously we're going to sit down with them and begin looking at strategies and not just saying, let's do $50,000 of Roth. So that's what we'll look at.
And that comes back to a tax mapping process. So, if you think about it from 2017 when we had about a 3% higher tax rate. So 3% when you're conducting Roth conversions makes a big deal. And for those who don't know, all you're basically doing is you're taking a traditional IRA, money that was in a 401k type money, and you're converting it to a Roth. You're just shifting it over. You can own the same positions. And the reason I say that, not to make it overly simplistic, but I've had a lot of people come up to me and be like, well, is a Roth IRA more conservative than a traditional IRA? Well, it depends on what you own in those accounts. You can own Apple stock in both of those accounts, but your taxable income and everything is treated differently. So all the gains on that Roth are tax-free. So when we're looking at retirement and we're looking at this 3% kind of difference that we have, that's where we plug it into our tax software. And we might say, hey, James, look right here, it looks like you could move about $40,000 and pay 12% or 22% or 24%. How does that sound to you? And back to his point is, if you're looking to the future and you're thinking, okay, I'm looking at the debt, it looks like it could be, we're in a little bit of trouble. We could have to pay this. Somebody's going to have to pay the piper. That could be me. So I think 22% rate is better than maybe a 44% rate. And I know that sounds crazy, but as he mentioned earlier, the Congressional Budget Office said, and I think this was in 2016, if things go unchanged, the lowest tax bracket would have to go to 25%. And it's not crazy to think about because we've been there before. We've had historically high tax rates, and right now, relatively speaking, historically they're low.
Yeah.
And James, I'd say go back if you're not sure and you're saying taxes are not going to go up that much, because the CBO did say that taxes may have to double in the future in order to keep all the programs that we have. Look back to 1960 to 63, 87% highest, 25% the lowest. So that's a little higher, because most financial advisors will tell people that are retiring, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, listen, don't worry, you're going to be in the lowest bracket more than likely when you retire. Now you need to ask them a question. What will that number be? Will it be 10 as it is today, or will it be 25? And they can't tell you that.
Yeah. And I'm also sitting here and I'm thinking, when you're thinking about the Roth conversion, age comes into play, right?
It does. Yeah, age comes into play. I mean, and then also your current income. But the thing that we don't want to leave out, we're not saying don't contribute to a traditional 401k. Sure. There is a mathematically ideal amount to have in that bucket. And when we sit down with clients, a lot of the things that we do focus on, whether that's stock market or whether it's taxation, is positioning our assets not just from a risk-reward standpoint, but from a taxation standpoint. So we want to have money in that tax-deferred bucket in most cases, depending on the person, but we want to have the right amount. So what if, hypothetically, you could put money into a traditional 401k, which reduces your taxable income, grow it tax-deferred, and what if you could withdraw it tax-free? So that's not a Roth conversion.
Can you do that legally?
You can do it legally. I always tell that there's a difference in tax avoidance and tax evasion, right? So we want to avoid taxes as legally as we can, and that's where we go back to utilizing the current tax system that we have to maximize those dollars.
Oh, some great information, some free information for sure. All right, give us that website one more time to connect with you guys. HughesRetirementGroup.com, or call us at 423-641-0999. All right, now that the election is over, we're seeing stock market predictions for 2025 coming in, and they don't all agree, Granger. Talk to us about what we
surprisingly
need to know when it comes to stock options.
Well, I mean, I think the way we look at it at our firm is we don't want to get hung up on, hey, my candidate won or my candidate lost, so I'm going to go all in or I'm going to go to cash, right? So I think when we're assembling a portfolio, we need to look at it from a standpoint of, okay, we don't want emotion to get involved. Mm-hmm. So what we try to do is we try to look at it from a non-emotional, methodical, mathematical approach. And we use that through technical analysis, fundamental analysis. So when we're assembling a portfolio, we don't want to get reactionary. It doesn't mean we won't make adjustments, but we don't want to let the political climate drive the way that we invest. And so when we're looking at assembling that portfolio, much like we were talking earlier, we want to kind of simulate, we want to kind of look and test and say, okay, where are you currently at? What tweaks and changes do we need to make to kind of get it more predictable, more sustainable? And we do that statistically. And I won't get into the statistics today, but that's the approach that we take. And I think sometimes people want to try to chase returns, and they want to try to beat the S&P, or they want to try to keep up with the S&P, but it's all about how you're positioned. Do you have the proper benchmark? If you're 65 years old and you're in a typical 60-40 asset mix, well, don't look at the S&P as your benchmark, right? We want to find the right benchmark for you, the right risk tolerance for you, and put together a plan that you can continue to utilize. And historically, buy and hold has been a good approach. And we'll look at the Dow's at almost 45,000 points today. But are there things that you could do as a retiree, you're in that retirement red zone, where maybe you're hedging a little bit against that next 2008 or that next 2020 that could come? We know we're going to have some drops. You don't have to necessarily be all in the equities markets or the stock markets. There's things that you can do where you can get decent returns and not have to take the same level of risk that maybe you did when you were 30 or 40 years old.
Did you teach him all this, Rick?
He's teaching me.
I was about to say, who taught who on this? Yeah, very impressive. Well, with folks watching right now, and they're going, I get the taxes, I get the Roth conversions, I get but when it comes to stocks, I mean, that's something that you guys take care of to see the big picture.
You've got to see the big picture. James, I said earlier, you're going to be in retirement 20 to 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay, in America, on average, every 7 years, we'll have a bear market. For the people that don't understand what the bear market is, it means it's doing this, okay? And so you need to prepare for those. So if you're going to be retirement 30 years, we're already calculating, okay, we're going to have 7 bear markets. Well, what if one of those is a 2008? We hope not. Yeah. But again, we've got to prepare for the rainy days. And as you know, we all have rainy days. Sure. Some of us have more than others. And it's a matter of building your portfolio with security. Okay, so that you can feel good about yourself. It goes back to what we said in the very beginning. The biggest fear retirees have is outliving their money. Yeah. If we knew exactly when someone was going to pass, then it'd be easier to calculate. Now, when Granger and I build retirement plans, we build them to age 95. Some people will laugh and scoff at us, and we'll say, okay, if you don't, somebody get your stuff, right? It's going to be passed down to someone. Yeah. But we're going to make sure you don't wake up at 85 and go, I'm still here.
and one
Which
thing,
would be a good thing.
And I know we don't have a ton of time, but one thing I try to tell to our clients when we're looking at creating these portfolios, if you had 2 climates, one of them was 77 degrees, 75, 74, 73, 75, well, you got an average return, let's say, of 75. But you pretty much know when you walk outside, you're probably going to be wearing the same thing. If in climate B, you got 100 degrees one day, 30, 70, 110, you don't know how to dress, right? Yeah. I mean, you may actually both average 75 degrees, but which climate would you rather live in? And that's when we try to assemble those portfolios. We try to get more towards climate A, where there's a little bit more predictability. We kind of know what the weather's going to be, rather than one day it's 100 degrees, the next day it's 30.
So as we wrap up our show, with the phone number and, of course, the website that's been on your screen, when folks call, when they connect with you, what's that conversation like initially? What are you asking for? I mean, obviously you want them to be, you're wanting to be face to face with these clients, but what should they know on the phone?
It's obviously when they call in, more than likely they're going to talk with one of our team members, and they're going to try to find out what's their objective. What are they looking to do? Obviously, we've got to, if they want us to test their portfolio and look at the portfolio, we need copies of that. Okay. But they're explaining to our staff, I'm getting ready to retire in 6 months. I want somebody to take a second look. Everything may be different.
Sure. Okay. Because you said something. I'm retiring in 6 months. Because, you're dealing with some younger folks as well. Like, hey, I'm retiring in 5 years.
Right.
And they need help, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're generally about 55 and older. Okay. But the biggest thing is knowing how much Social Security you're going to have. What are your expenses going to be? Do you have any other income sources? Have you planned for long-term care? Have you planned for legacy? Have you planned for taxation? What's your risk profile looking like? Those are all the things we're going to address.
Alrighty, take a deep breath. These guys can help you, I promise you. Hughes Retirement Group, remember that name. Rick and Granger, always good seeing you.
Thank you.
Some wonderful insights, some wonderful free information as well. Connect with their team. Here's the telephone number, 423-641-0999. You can visit them online at hughesretirementgroup.com. Thank you so much for joining us today.